lots of social justice warrior in my comment section. I didn't say anything much. I was just a messenger there. I was just presenting scientific stuff and people just go crazy. Hello everybody, welcome to Talks with Brian Jonathan, and with me myself here, and this is my first episode of video of me talking in English. Previously, in every videos that I've made, I talked in Indonesian because I'm an Indonesian and I target for Indonesian audience. However, I started to think, is it possible for me to expand? Is it possible for me to speak in English so I can connect with people outside Indonesia? Aside from that, I'd like to challenge myself to create content in English. Me communicating in English might not be a problem, because some of my friends would prefer me speaking English with them. And also I have some foreign friends outside my country, of course, where I have to speak English for them to understand what I'm trying to say. When I speak Indonesian, not everyone would understand. However, my lingua franca here is Indonesian. I communicate daily in Indonesian. It seems quite challenging for me to create content in English, so bear with me. Before moving on to something I'd like to talk in this episode, I'd like to introduce myself. So, for those of you who haven't recognized me yet, I'm the guy in TikTok talking about psychology, talking about college, and giving opinions about whatsoever in Indonesian for Indonesian audience. Because whenever I meet new people here, they would always say, "You look familiar. Have I ever seen you?" They would think very hard and they came to one conclusion. "Oh, you're the guy from TikTok." And that had happened for several times. And I came to accept it. And back then, I also studied psychology for my degree. So basically, I have a Bachelor of Psychology behind my name. I can educate about psychology, I can counsel people. However, I'm not a psychologist. So, according to the law here in Indonesia, I cannot diagnose people with mental illness. I can only educate them what you should do, what actions should you take, and recommend you to this psychologist or that psychologist, and that's it. That's what I do. That's part of my job. And after I graduated, I worked as an HR recruiter in a company here, in a private company in Indonesia. It's a huge company, but I hated working there. And I think this might be a story for next time. In the meantime, I created content in TikTok. And I also expanded into creating podcasts. But for me personally, I prefer making podcasts instead of creating TikTok videos. I mean, like, I can speak freely here in podcasts, and people would say, "Oh, your voice is slip callable." That's a thing in Indonesia, slip callable. And I feel it's much better for me to create this long video instead of me cramming myself down into 60 seconds. Despite me being very scientific in my content in TikTok, people would always misunderstand me. And that's the unique thing about Indonesia. The people here in Indonesia, they're amazing. Once you created a content that resonates with the majority of people, people will defend you like crazy. People will praise you like crazy. However, when you talk about something that doesn't align with the majority of people, they will shit on you crazy too. I can say that the people here in Indonesia are very polarized in a way. And for those of you, foreigners who are interested in creating content in Indonesia, you're very welcomed, especially if you're a Caucasian. And people will call you like, "Oh, Bule. Bule is creating content here in Indonesia." Caucasian, white people, to get viral in Indonesia. Especially if Bule speaking in Indonesian or some local Indonesian languages. For instance, like talking in Sundanese or Javanese. Wow, that Bule is going to have a great time here. But at one point when creating content, I felt exhausted. I felt burnt out. And I think that's part of the journey in a way. Because some people would feel like, I don't want to do this again. And I think that's normal because creating content is just like any other job. People will feel bored or exhausted and looking for something else to do. something more interesting in a way, and something that's more rewarding in a way. But also, creating content here in Indonesia is quite challenging in a way. You have to be very careful about what you talk about. You have to be very delicate about your word. And it's quite challenging here, especially when you're the guy who creates educational content, where many people here in Indonesia, they'd prefer funny content. You will experience brain rot at one point. This entertaining stuff, funny videos, call them like content receh, because receh means spare, unimportant, spare money, because it comes from the word uang receh. Uang receh is small amounts of money, like cents or coins money. It's considered like unimportant. Those kind of videos that you watch on your Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or your TikTok, those are some unimportant stuff. But people enjoy that kind of stuff instead of watching educational video. When you create educational video here, it's a challenge, basically. Unless when you talk about something very controversial, you will get viral. I remembered my most viral video on TikTok was talking about cheating in a relationship. Seriously, people here, they really love this topic. We talk about cheating, infidelity, and whatsoever. And I noticed the majority of people who watched my video talking about cheating in a relationship was female. When I look at the comment section, lots of girls, lots of women talking like, yeah, I relate to that shit. I relate. My guy is like that. My guy is like this. Yeah, every comment that I read was validating about that. So basically, in the video, I started with one research paper that I presented that stated people who cheat are more likely to have lower intelligence. From what I can recall, the research paper was published in 2011. I forgot. I mean, it was a long time ago, and I haven't found any follow-up research regarding to that topic yet. Unless if you found one, tell me. I'd like to know. And just me stating about that one point, many of the women go crazy. I mean, like, oh man, I regretted dating my stupid guy. That stupid guy cheated on me. That stupid guy, that idiot guy cheated on me. I mean, it's quite entertaining for me in a way. And I can conclude that the comment section was praising me like crazy. Oh, this guy is talking facts. This guy is talking great facts. I'd also like to talk about one of my video that went viral. However, I considered that video controversial, especially here in Indonesia, which was talking about homosexuality is not considered as a disorder. Well, I referenced that from DSM-5. So DSM is the handbook for psychologists or psychiatrists on diagnosing people with mental illness. So what disorder is this? What disorder is that? Many people here still considers LGBT and stuff as something that is taboo. I mean, here in Indonesia, you cannot openly say that, oh, I'm gay, oh, I'm lesbian. No, you can't do that here. Once you do that, you'll get bullied like hell. You won't be accepted by the people around here. People will discriminate you in a way. So I stated that homosexuality is not considered as a disorder according to the DSM-5 inside the video. And when I read the comment section in my TikTok video talking about that topic, the comment section is a fucking battleground. People will fight each other just stating their arguments. Some would say that, no, it's wrong. It's still a disorder. And some would say, no, you guys are close-minded. You have to be open-minded like us. This thing, you have to learn how to tolerate them. You cannot discriminate them. Human rights, lots of social justice warrior in my comment section. I didn't say anything much. I was just a messenger there. I was just presenting scientific stuff and people just go crazy for me who talked about this fact, Because people here, they have their own values. People in Indonesia, they have their own values of viewing things. People here tend to be more conservative. That's a warning for many of you guys who might be liberal. People here are more conservative. So please be careful when you visit Indonesia. Just respect people around here. Act normal, respect them, smile, be friendly, and you're good to go. And I think I might talk about more stuff like this, discussing about my old content on TikTok ahead in my podcasts, maybe. I'm going to talk about that. I mean, that sounds exciting to discuss about. However, I can conclude from all of my videos that I've created on TikTok, I'd like to move. I'd like to create a content for English-speaking audience. Because at one point when Indonesia was having their election, presidential election, I noticed some content creators here in Indonesia who talks about politics, law, moral, philosophy, and this kind of stuff in English. That's quite unique. And I find that interesting because they target this kind of topics for English speakers in Indonesia. For you who do not know why there might be some English speakers here in Indonesia, you might wonder why English speaking in Indonesia? How could that even be possible? Because some of the people here in Indonesia, they are educated in international schools. And in those kind of schools, you have to speak English in your daily conversation. I used to study in an international school back then, so I relate to that experience. Okay, because those kids who are educated in an international school, they have a hard time speaking in Indonesian. So talking about this kind of content, Indonesian politics in English could reach those groups of people who only speak English. I mean, like this kind of format would be more acceptable for those kids who only speak in English, but they're Indonesian. And the majority of the only English speakers in Indonesia are from the middle and upper class. And these classes of people, they don't really care about the politics here in Indonesia. So how can we help people to not be tone deaf? We call it like tone deaf here. It's to label people who are apathetic towards Indonesian politics here. And how you can help them to understand much better about Indonesian politics. So when those content creators created content in English, the comment section is more civil because it filters a lot of people already. Only a certain demographics of people would watch this kind of video, talking in English for Indonesian audience. And also several of my friends recommend me to create content in English because they said, for you as an Indonesian, your English is very well. So, I mean, you have the potential to reach to foreigners, to people outside your country. So people would understand your idea. So I considered about those things and I concluded, okay, let me start an English podcast, an Indonesian who creates an English podcast. So I think this might be a good start for me. Maybe in the upcoming videos, I'm still going to talk in Indonesian, especially when I interview some of my friends or some of the other people who are Indonesian, who prefers to speak in Indonesian. I have to speak in Indonesian with them. But you guys who only speak in English, you can turn on the subtitle, the closed caption, and you could understand what I'm trying to say here. So that's it for this episode. See you in the upcoming podcasts in Talks with Brian Jonathan.